Okay, so welcome to the Learn Freely YouTube channel. And today we're going to try and do a 10-minute topic, which is something achievement for us if we can stick to 10 minutes. But we're going to try and do a very quick 10-minute topic about the issue that's been bothering us at the moment, which is why are the particular grades that are going back to school now going back to school? Why are the grade 12s going back? Why are the grade 7s going back? And because it doesn't seem to make a hell of a lot of sense. One of the things that bothers me particularly is that when you look at the age structure of our grade 12s, they're not like you would think normally, or many people's experience, or some people's experiences to say, they're not 17 and 18-year-olds. Something like 40% of our grade 12s are 19, a full quarter of them are 20. So we're sending older children back to school. Well, we're not even sure. We're sending young adults back to school, or adults back to school. And we're not sending back, let's say, in the first tranche, the grade 1s, the grade 2s. So the question is, why have we've chosen these two groups? Why have we chosen them? And I think the answer is, if we look at a problem that occurred really early in this crisis, which is the problem that SAB had. And SAB's problem was they've got a continuous production line in their
SA breweries,
where
right?
They're making beer. SA breweries, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Or whatever that's called now, Anheuser-Busch, Ambev, whatever, but we're wasting our minutes, so we weren't going to that. But South African breweries, right, the people who make the beer, they've got beer factories. And the thing that struck me in this article was that they were saying they need a special exemption from the minister because they've got all of these bottles that have built up in their factories and they need to send them somewhere. And then when we started talking about why standard 7s have to go back to school, why grade 7s have to go back to school, standard 7s, I'm old, why grade 7s have to go back to school, and why grade 12s have to go back to school, I started wondering, this is actually sounding a hell of a lot like an SAB problem. And I think that what this crisis then is revealing is that there's a fundamental factory nature to our educational system. You're going to come back to this later when you talk about Ken Robinson and his videos on the factory nature, or the first industrial revolution nature of our school system. We'll link that, and you'll come back to that. But this SAB problem essentially is that our schools are actually being run a lot like factories. We've got a concern about product. We can't, as we've seen in the crisis, once the factory stops running, we have a major problem. So we're in a continuous production process where you have to move from one grade to the other grade to the other grade. And we see that in the promotion policy at the school, that once a child has failed a particular grade,
then they just
then they have to be moved on, because we need to create space for the next load of bottles that are coming into the factory. And that seems to be one of the key reasons, that seems to be the real reason that we're sending the grade 12s and the grade 7s back. And I mean, the grade 7s makes less sense than the grade 12s, because the grade 7s, if you are going to promote kids automatically, why don't we just promote the grade 7s then in the first place? So I think the issue is we essentially have a system that's very inflexible because it's a factory system. And I think that has certain implications for learning, and that's maybe what you wanted to raise and bring out.
The question it naturally just raises is that, as we can see currently, the fact that it's a factory system is sort of undermining the very educational part of it. It's saying, right, grade 8s can be promoted, and grade 6 can be promoted, but grade 7s can't. I mean, what's going to happen to the grade 6s and the grade 8s? Why are what makes them so different? And the only thing that makes them different is they're not at the end of the factory system. So that to me makes your point very clear, that it is being run like a factory system. And the question we should ask ourselves is, what is education for? And you should ask that for yourself. I don't have time to talk about that now. But two things.
10 minutes.
two things we can say it is for. It is to educate you to be efficient in the workplace. Another thing is education is to teach moral values, to teach you to be an upright person who can act righteously in the world, so that you can be a valuable member of society, not just as an economical person, but as a as a person, right, with interaction of other peoples. And the question you should ask yourself is, it's quite clear that this is a factory, and is a factory the best place to teach morals, and is a factory the best place to teach you to work in a world which seems to be very changing really quickly, and where you should be creative, right? These are things that people are constantly talking about, the fourth industrial revolution and robots and programs and all these things that are coming in right now. And we're asking ourselves, is it really the best idea to send you through a factory to prepare you to be in that, to act in that world? And is a factory the best place to make you a person who will interact correctly with all members of society? And I don't think that is the best system for it.
And I think one of the problems is that, and this is not maybe so much of an issue for, let's say, those people who are in matric right now, because the system is running. I think one of the other reasons that the matrics have to go back and that they're going to write the matric exams and the syllabus can't be changed is that those exams have already been set. They're already in the box. The matric exams were already set some months ago. And that's the reason why the matrics have to do so many days, because otherwise there's the fear that they won't be ready to write those already pre-standardized and pre-set exams. Now, a lot of other systems in the UK, they're taking the view that they're using other ways of assessing and of promoting. But we are obviously very locked into this matric culture and this idea of writing that final exam. But I think the question that we need to be asking ourselves, and the question that perhaps some parents need to be asking themselves, is the kids who are going to be following a reduced syllabus, the question needs to be asked,
the younger ones,
why couldn't we reduce the syllabus in the first place? That's the one question. If it's not essential. But the second problem is, can you ever in a factory production-like system catch up? So the problem becomes, and that doesn't mean that kids don't have the innate capacity to catch up.
Yes.
But what that means is that in the factory, can you catch up? Because if we put the car seats in now, we can't spray paint the car afterwards. We have to spray paint the car first, and only then when the paint is dried can we put the car seats in. And I think that what a lot of parents need to be concerned about is not really this current group of matrics are in any way perhaps at the end of what matric is, according to the department, a 3-year cycle. So you're at the very end of a 3-year cycle. In fact, when they went into lockdown, they should have been already 3 years or 2.25 years through that cycle. The issue really is the other kids, where they are they going to be able to catch up in that sense, in that system? And isn't it time to look at the system in a different way and see it's their learning that's the most important thing? Because I, for one, am concerned that the long-term effects are going to be for those kids who are going to be missing, who are going to have to be catching up next year, extra, even on top of what they've done already. They're going to have extra things put into this, because I think that's another part about a factory. You've got a recipe. When you make a bottle of beer, you've got to put this much barley and this much hops and this much water in at this time to achieve the next step. And once you've done that, you can't go back and reopen the bottle and put new things in. And
there's another
thing
thing
some kids are going to be caught into.
Yeah. So, and I almost want to slightly disagree with you. I think it's going to be not going to be really hard for the grade 4s and the grade 3s and the grade 6s to catch up, because I think a lot of their time is in any case being wasted normally in this factory system, because the factory system has to do lots of other things besides teach you to read and teach you to do maths, and all these other things are wasting time. So I think depends on the different specific people. So for some people it might be struggling to catch up, and that should ask them, maybe they should take their kids out of that system and put them in a system which is more conductive for them to catch up, to learn more quickly. But the kids who didn't fall back at all, fall behind at all, or caught up really easy, well, they should ask themselves, has my time been wasted previously? Like, if I could so easily catch up, what have I been doing all this time? So those are the two groups of people that we might have, and both of those groups that should be an interesting question to ask, right? And
okay, I'm going to disagree with you, but we'll unpack that.
We'll talk about that later.
About the nature of the syllabus, because I think the very nature of the syllabus, even for the kids who have actually are up to date, the very nature of the syllabus is they're going to be forced to do unnecessary things when they go back. But
unnecessary
things. Unpack that later.
Okay, so the point is, factories maybe not the best thing for education. So just think about that. Great. Have a good day.
Brilliant.
Bye.
Okay, that's our 10 minutes and we're over. And
We did
it.
it.
Thanks, we did it. Oh, well.